Well, come to my speech, educate yourself every day. Why, every single day you wake up, you have two options. Either remain exactly who you were yesterday, or evolve. That evolution doesn't come from luck. It doesn't come from comfort. It comes from education, and I'm not talking about degrees on a wall or trophies in a case. I'm talking about self-education, the kind that whispers to you at 2 a.m., asking, is this really who you want to be? Educating yourself isn't a task. It's a mindset, a war you fight with your own laziness, your own ego, your own distractions. You think scrolling through your feed for hours is harmless. It's not. It's stealing your time. Time that could have been used to understand the world better. Time that could have been spent studying your flaws, questioning your beliefs, or learning how to become unshakable. Every day you refuse to learn, someone else gets sharper. Someone else gets stronger. And when life puts you both on the battlefield, you lose. Because you spent your time being entertained while they spent theirs getting educated. And don't confuse education with memorizing facts. That's not learning. Learning is watching how people move. It's asking why the world works the way it does. It's studying your own silence and your own pain. Real education is uncomfortable. It makes you question your values. It makes you cut off people who don't grow. It forces you to leave behind versions of yourself that felt safe. You want to be respected, then educate yourself every day until you walk into a room and your presence teaches more than your words ever could. You want to be free. Educate yourself every day until you no longer depend on anyone to give you clarity, permission, or direction. Because here's the truth. Nobody's coming to save you. Not your parents. Not your school. Not your job. Not your government. You are your only lifeboat in this storm. And the only way that lifeboat stays afloat is by filling it with knowledge, insight, and awareness. That's what keeps your head above water when life gets dark. So read, reflect, break your own illusions, watch your own thoughts, learn something uncomfortable every day, learn from the pain, learn from the silence, learn from the moments when no one is clapping for you. Because when you educate yourself every day, you start to see differently. You start to move differently. Your presence becomes louder than your voice, and people around you, without even knowing why, start to listen. Not because you're shouting, but because you've become a storm in silence, and when that happens, you don't just survive, you lead. Growth is a daily choice, not a one-time event. That truth is quiet but powerful. It doesn't scream for attention, but it sits with you every single morning when you open your eyes. Most people think growth is something that happens when you graduate, when you get promoted, when something big shifts in your life. They wait for events to trigger change. But real growth is not a highlight. It's not a ceremony or a celebration. It's a decision you make in silence when no one is watching. It's what you choose to do when you don't feel like doing anything. It's what you feed your mind with, what thoughts you choose to entertain, what actions you decide to take in the ordinary moments that most people overlook. Every day, you are given hundreds of micro decisions that shape who you are becoming. What you read, what you ignore, how you react, how you speak to others, how you speak to yourself. These aren't just random actions, they are bricks. And each day, you're either building something solid or tearing something down. Growth doesn't ask for perfection, but it demands consistency. It demands that you show up even when it's easier not to. It demands that you be honest with yourself about your weaknesses, not to punish yourself, but to understand where you still need to evolve. Some people think growth is supposed to feel good, that it's this motivational rush, like watching an inspiring video or hearing a powerful speech, but that's not what it is. Real growth is hard, it's exhausting. Sometimes it's ugly, it's admitting that you've been wrong, it's swallowing your pride, it's facing your fears head on instead of running from them. It's letting go of habits that made you feel safe but kept you small. It's choosing to stay disciplined when your emotions beg you to break. It's learning how to say no even when saying yes is easier. It's understanding that comfort and evolution can't live in the same place. You don't get stronger by reading a book once. You get stronger by applying what that book taught you over and over again, even when the world tempts you to forget it. You don't become wiser by having one moment of clarity. You become wiser by reflecting every day, adjusting, recalibrating your direction. Every single day, life throws new challenges, new information, new chaos. If you're not learning, if you're not growing, you are falling behind. Not in competition with others, but in competition with the person you were meant to become. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It's not a passive result. It's a choice you have to fight for. Some days that choice will feel impossible. Your mind will tell you to take the easy route. Your past will try to drag you back into patterns you already outgrew. People around you will misunderstand your journey. They'll think you've changed. And they're right, because growth requires change. You don't become something greater by staying the same. You have to be willing to disappoint the version of you that was comfortable in order to become the version of you that is powerful. You have to stop waiting for the right time, the right conditions, the right motivation. Growth doesn't wait for you to be ready. It waits for you to choose it again and again when you're tired, when you're hurting. When you're doubting yourself, that's when it matters most. Not when everything is going well, but when everything inside you wants to give up. That's when you prove to yourself who you really are. And it doesn't take massive action every single day. It takes deliberate, focused movement in the right direction. Sometimes it's reading one page. Sometimes it's getting out of bed when your body says stay. Sometimes it's keeping your mouth shut when anger tries to control you. These small moments, repeated consistently, are where true growth lives. It's not glamorous. It's not loud, but it is transformative. Choosing growth every day means holding yourself to a higher standard, not because the world demands it, but because your future depends on it. It means being brutally honest with yourself when you're slacking, not in a way that brings shame, but in a way that brings accountability. It means understanding that the person you admire, the version of you that seems so far away, is just on the other side of your daily habits, your daily thoughts, your daily choices. The life you want isn't hiding behind a miracle. It's built through quiet, daily work. It's hidden inside the moments you're tempted to waste. It's written in how often you choose discipline over comfort, action over excuse, clarity over confusion. And the people who truly grow are not the ones who had perfect starts. They're the ones who said, "I'm not staying here," and meant it, then they proved it, every single day. Self-education builds mental strength and direction in a way that formal systems rarely can. When you choose to educate yourself, deliberately, consistently, and without external pressure, you unlock a part of your mind that begins to operate on a higher level. You're not just consuming information, you're reprogramming your thinking. You're no longer depending on others to feed you ideas or tell you who to be. You become the architect of your own understanding, and that process is what develops real inner strength. Mental strength doesn't appear from nowhere. It's built in silence. It's built when you're reading something that challenges your world. And instead of shutting it down, you sit with it and ask yourself why it makes you uncomfortable. It's built when you make time to study not just the world, but yourself, your reactions, your fears, your patterns. It's built when you don't know something, and instead of pretending, you dive into it, research it, break it down piece by piece until you understand it from the inside out. This act of self-education teaches you more than facts. It teaches you how to think. It gives you the tools to process the world without being manipulated by it. It gives you the clarity to move forward when everyone else is frozen by doubt. Self-education teaches you resilience. It teaches you that you don't have to be born brilliant or gifted to become intelligent or wise. You just have to be consistent. It shows you the value of persistence. When you sit down with a book that stretches your mind, or watch a lecture that introduces a whole new way of seeing life, you're slowly building cognitive muscle. That effort trains your mind to endure discomfort, to dig deeper, to stay curious. That's where mental strength is forged, in the effort it takes to grow. It's not in knowing all the answers, it's in the refusal to stay ignorant. There's something powerful about a person who educates themselves. They become harder to influence. They become more grounded. They don't panic every time something changes because they understand patterns. They've studied how life works, how systems rise and fall, how emotions come and go. They've taught themselves how to respond rather than react. They're not shaken by every storm because they've trained their mind to think critically. They've learned to sit in solitude, to question their assumptions, to revise their conclusions as they gather more insight. That's the mental strength that matters, not bravado, not loud opinions, but quiet conviction built through continuous learning. Direction comes naturally when you begin to educate yourself, because the more you learn, the clearer you become about what you want and what you don't. You stop living by accident. You start living on purpose. You begin to recognize what aligns with your values and what distracts from them. You see through shallow goals and start aiming for something deeper. When you're self-educating, you're constantly recalibrating your internal compass. You're not just drifting through life, you're charting your course. You're not just influenced by your environment, you're shaping it. People who don't educate themselves often feel lost, not because they're incapable, but because they've never taken the time to understand what matters to them. They consume whatever is handed to them. They follow trends. They adopt beliefs from family, media, school, and culture without ever stopping to ask, does this make sense to me? Is this true for me? Self-education forces those questions to the surface. It puts you face to face with your own mind, and in doing so, it gives you direction, not just for your career or your goals, but for your identity, your relationships, your way of being. The most dangerous thing in life is to move through it without knowing why you do what you do. Self-education strips away that danger. It gives you perspective. You start to understand the roots of your behavior. You learn about psychology, philosophy, history, not to show off, but to decode your own experience. You begin to see how everything connects. You start noticing how people think, how systems manipulate, how narratives are shaped. You're no longer confused by the chaos because you've studied its architecture. You understand the anatomy of fear, the mechanics of motivation, the economics of power. This knowledge doesn't make life easier, but it makes you sharper. It gives you direction because it gives you context. And when you have context, you can make better choices. Mental strength isn't just about toughness. It's about clarity. It's about being able to sit in uncertainty without crumbling. It's about having enough awareness to know when your thoughts are lying to you, when your emotions are clouding your judgment. It's about staying composed in a world that profits off your panic. That kind of strength can't be given to you. You can't inherit it or buy it. You have to build it, and the way you build it is by learning every single day, not for a test, not for validation, but for survival, for freedom, for your own peace of mind. The people who grow through life are the ones who keep learning long after school ends. They don't stop at the diploma. They don't let the world feed them narratives. They investigate. They stay curious. They read widely. They explore perspectives they disagree with. They take responsibility for what they know and what they don't. That's why they evolve. That's why they rise. That's why they can lead others, because they've first led themselves through the fires of ignorance and into the discipline of knowledge. It's easy to stay distracted, easy to blame the system, easy to say, I never had the chance. But self-education removes all excuses. The internet is full of libraries, lectures, essays, courses. The wisdom of the ages is a click away. The only thing missing is the will. The only thing separating you from the person you could become is the choice to start learning and keep learning without being told to. When you educate yourself, you stop needing permission. You stop looking for shortcuts. You stop waiting to be saved. You realize the power was always in your hands, and you start using it. When you become a student of life, you stop fearing it. You stop resenting it. Even the pain becomes something to study. The setbacks become lessons. The heartbreak becomes a teacher. You no longer see life as something that happens to you, but something you're constantly interpreting and shaping. That shift is where your direction is born. Because when you see clearly, you move intentionally, and when you move intentionally, you begin to walk into purpose. This process of self-education changes how you see time. You begin to value it, you protect it, you no longer waste it on things that numb your brain or feed your confusion. You use it to sharpen yourself, to study something real, to grow. That decision, repeated day after day, builds you into someone who doesn't crumble under pressure, someone who can adapt, someone who leads not because they want power, but because they've done the work to understand it. Mental strength and direction are not gifts. They are built brick by brick, choice by choice, lesson by lesson. They come to those who are willing to show up every day, open-minded and disciplined, ready to face the discomfort of not knowing in exchange for the power of understanding. Self-education is that exchange. It is not glamorous, it is not fast, but it is permanent. It doesn't fade when trends fade. It doesn't break under pressure. It doesn't need approval. Because once you know how to teach yourself, you become unstoppable. You don't just survive life, you master it from within